It happened many moons ago, but when I recall it, I see it as true. There was a girl born with hollow eyes, not blind, but unable to see the world as others did. Where others saw faces, she saw memories and intentions. Her village feared her, for she could perceive people's true nature. She was, therefore, a threat. She learned to live alone. Her only solace the sunflowers she grew in a small garden behind her ruined house. One summer, a strange flower bloomed, taller, darker, its shadowed face bearing a pair of golden eyes. They didn't blink, they simply watched. The girl was drawn to it at once, and when she touched it for the first time, a new realm of knowledge opened before her. The moment she picked it, a third hand appeared, reaching from nowhere. It was not a human hand. It wrapped itself around the stalk of the sunflower, and together they held it in silent agreement. From that day, people said her gaze grew even deeper. Some swore that if you met her eyes, you would see a version of yourself staring back. Hi everyone, my name is Aneta, I'm an illustrator, and I hope you enjoyed the story I came up with for this piece. Funny enough, I originally planned for this video to be completely silent. I even tried recording some ASMR-like pencil scratching sounds, because lately I've been drawing a lot and felt the need to take a break, at least from talking. But I had a few thoughts along the way, so I figured I might as well share them. First of all, this piece was totally unplanned. What you saw at the beginning of the video was a field not far away from where I live. Around this time of the year, it's usually full of sunflowers, but it seems the farmer changed their plans, maybe a whole new business model. And I was honestly a bit sad to see the field empty. And then somehow this little story came to me, the one I told you at the beginning, just a glimpse of it. Still, I wasn't intending to create a full illustration. I just wanted to experiment a bit with inks and colored pencils, materials I promised myself I'd use more this year. I've been collecting them for a while, always hesitant to touch them. So there wasn't much logic in how I applied the layers. I didn't even stretch the paper, and then of course I had to deal with all the buckling that came with it. Like I said, it was meant to be pure experimentation. But the cool thing is that somewhere along the way something clicked, and it's a kind of realization I've been quietly waiting for a long time. Oh, and by the way, I find creating these kinds of stories really helpful while drawing. Sometimes it doesn't have to be much, it doesn't need to be a fully fleshed out narrative. It doesn't even need an ending, but it definitely pushes you to ask yourself questions. For example, is there a reason I'm drawing what I'm drawing? Taki. So, for many years, I was constantly going against myself when it came to creativity. The first thing I always did was set the bar very high, and by that, I don't mean I just wanted to draw or express myself. I wanted the outcome to be good as I could possibly make it within the limits of my skills. Of course, that's a very subjective thing, but this mindset led me into a kind of eternal journey, constantly jumping from one inspiration to another, from one painting or artist to the next. And while I still think this is a great way to learn to steal like an artist, borrowing elements you admire in others to better understand your own craft, it also has a downside. You end up being everyone and no one at the same time in terms of your own voice. And the irony is that voice is often already inside you, but you don't want to hear it. You think maybe it's too cheesy, maybe people will laugh at my ideas. And then you look around at the creative world and realize two things. First, nobody really cares what you are or aren't planning to do. And second, there is space for everything. In my case, I always struggled with the subject matter, the what to draw, if you like. And sometimes it's so subtle only I can notice. I used to criticize artists who would stick to the same concept over and over again. I won't name names, that's not the point, but I'm sure you know what I mean, the so-called one-trick pony. But nowadays I think, who cares? If they're good at what they're doing and they have an audience, who am I to judge? Now, I still believe fundamentals are important. They're like building a house. If the structure isn't sound, it doesn't matter what color you paint the walls. That house won't last. So yeah, ideally we should keep practicing our fundamentals, and I think that's something we need to carry with us for a lifetime. There's no deadline. I once stumbled upon a reel where someone pointed out that a certain artist with a surprisingly large following was lacking fundamentals. The artist replied, I finished art school 4 years ago. I know the fundamentals. And I just opened my eyes because there's no such thing as fixed timeline where you can learn and then you're done. well, you get your diploma and suddenly you're above growth. We really do lack humility sometimes. On one hand, realizing this made me so much more conscious of how I approach art, but on the other hand, it trapped me in the mindset of a never ending student, always learning, never arriving, and working on this piece. Somehow it freed me from that. And honestly, and I'm still kind of ashamed to admit this, I've been drawing very similar subjects lately, and I thought, shouldn't I diversify? Shouldn't I move on to something new? And then I stopped and thought, wait, can I just breathe? I will keep exploring, keep learning. That will never change. But from now, I'm giving myself permission to draw what I like, to explore themes that interest me, and to go deeper rather than always sideways. And that leads me to another thing. As you probably know, I've always been drawn to the darker side of the moon, so to speak, but I often felt like there are only two extremes out there, either cheerful, polished illustrations or full-on dark gothic and gore. And while I totally get the appeal of both, what I'm looking for is something else, a kind of romantic gothic, maybe even with vivid colors, something that carries an aura of mystery, a subtle horror, if you like. I'm not into gore or jump scares. I like poetry, or at least a more nuanced, gentle approach to darkness. So I started thinking, I know that most people, even here on YouTube, would probably appreciate a beautifully drawn girl. You know, the type with big lips, the kind of face that fits our Instagrammable standards, surrounded by flowers. But my flowers aren't feeling oh well. And that sunset doesn't have to radiate that artificial joy of some dreamy holiday or vacation. What if there is sorrow tucked behind it? Am I allowed to think that way, even if someone might say, yeah, but the word's already ugly, can we just be happy for once? And sure, I get it, but is happy always that comfortable? Sometimes happy can feel hollow. How can you truly understand the value of light without its darker counterpart? So, giving myself permission to paint something darker, a girl with hollow eyes, a strange sunflower, and a third hand that no one can explain, not only freed me from all these expectations of what I should be creating, it also accidentally turned into a really cool concept. And you know how critical I can be of my own work. So if I'm saying that, it actually means a lot. I don't know if I express my thoughts clearly, but moving on, I guess I'll follow this path of trying to combine beauty with the odd. Not just beauty sprinkled with some symbolism, but an attempt to build some stories around it, concepts that make you question what beauty really is. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, feel free to subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Take care.